On today's show, 16 honorable mentions, a top 32 complete with tiers and exclusive breakdowns of each prospect's game. These are my November rankings for the 2023 NHL Draft. I'm Hadi Kalakesh, and you're listening to Locked On NHL Prospects.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome. You're listening to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. I'm Hadi Kalakesh, video scout and prospect analyst for Habs Eyes on the Prize and Dauber Prospects. And I absolutely love to share my thoughts on the NHL's next big stars. And what a year to start doing that, with so many stars piercing into the NHL as we speak, and a 2023 NHL draft that is filled to the brim with NHL talent. You're in for a treat this season. If you like prospects, make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and try to make Locked On NHL Prospects your first listen of the day. It's always much appreciated, and it's definitely worth it with the season we're about to have. Now, starting off the rankings, we'll start with the honorable mentions, 16 of them. You're getting a whole half round more than the top 32. So, the way that I broke this down, I just want to sort of explain my rationale when making these honorable mentions lists. I go for any name that I think you can make a solid argument to take in the first round, but that I don't think are necessarily above the names that are in the top 32. So that's why there's 16 of them, is because it all depends on what you're looking for. It all depends on how good your development team is, what their strengths are, if they're better at developing skills or hockey sense or physical strength, etc., etc., etc. So starting off the honorable mentions, I'm going to start with a prospect that hails from Russia, a left wing who shoots right, which is very, very typical for Russian forwards. His name is Daniil But. Very, very raw. Now he's a February '05 birth date, right-handed shooter, again, 6'5" and 203 pounds. Do you have any idea why I included him in this list? It's because NHL teams love size and love goal scoring, and when you're a big guy who could score, you'll turn some heads. Now, again, this is a very raw prospect. He is 6'5", 203, but man, I've seen him get out muscled by 5'9" defenders. And when you're that big and you're not leveraging your strengths, you're at a disadvantage, because that physical advantage that you have right now is it's gonna disappear once you get to the NHL. So that's why I wouldn't have him in my top 32. I also don't like the fact that he doesn't show a lot of high-end processing. He makes some weird decisions at times, and just overall tends to be all over the map in terms of his play. So he's outside of the top 32. Another prospect I have in my honorable mentions, Kalan Lind, a big forward, six foot, kind of frail at 154, but it doesn't show. He uses his body extremely well in puck battles, and he's a pass first, playmaking type of forward. So when you've got that kind of combination of skills that work really well together, his main thing is protecting pucks and cycling them to his teammates intelligently. I like the package. I just don't think there's enough there to outrank the players in the top 32. Again, a player that's kind of growing on me now, player that you might actually end up seeing in my top 32, Samuel Honzek. He plays for the Vancouver Giants in the WHL. 6'3", 181 pounds. He's a center. He's a big guy who takes a lot of space. He's a heavy forward, and he's got that dual threat offense that I like to see. He's not a one trick pony. He can make plays, create seams, and open up passing lanes to connect with his teammates, but it can also wire the puck in the net. Um, there's a couple things I want to see, and maybe that'll come with more viewings. By the way, most if not all of the players on this list I've seen at least twice. Moving on from Honzek, Oliver Moore, a high-end skater, a versatile forward. He can play pretty much any role on a team. He can be a shutdown center. He can be a more skill-based player. He can complement teammates really well. He's one of those USN TDP players who are really sort of well-rounded and don't have any sort of high-end weaknesses, but I don't see any sort of high-end strengths in this game either. You've also got Ondrej Molnár, a Slovakian left winger who plays in Slovakia for HK Nitra, which was Simon Nemec's old team, the New Jersey Devils' second overall pick in the last draft. He is a mature, defensively responsible, pass first winger. And those are really sort of special. They usually do end up having a role on an NHL team. He's got high end habits. He scans a lot. He checks his surroundings, makes sure he fakes one way and goes the other on retrievals. There's a lot of little details that I really like in his game, but it's kind of the same thing as with Oliver Moore, where I don't see any sort of high end tremendous skill. But I think that he's a solid bet to make the NHL. So again, honorable mention. Moving on, Emil Jarventie, skill and pace of play is how you describe him. He is extremely skillful and does everything he does at a high speed. His strength and defensive play, though, is kind of iffy, and that's why he's outside of my top 32. An April 05 birth date. He's a winger, 5'10", 163 pounds. He's already playing in the professional league right now, but I just don't see enough from him off the puck where I'm really sort of solid on him as a first round pick. I do see the skill, though, and that's always promising. Another player who might grow on me a bit like Samuel Honzek, Tanner Molendyk, a smart transition defender who is pretty much one of the best rush defenders. This is a prospect who absolutely dominates opponents when they're rushing towards him. He knows how to direct them to the right spots. Left-handed defenseman, 5'11", 176 pounds. He plays for the Saskatoon Blades in the WHL. Again, the dub is completely packed with high-end talent. This is the year of the dub. They're going to be all over the first round. Now, Carson Rehkopf, size, speed, scoring. That's what you're getting from Rehkopf. 6'1", 194 pounds. He plays for the Kitchener Rangers. I've seen quite a bit of him because, since I work for Habs Eyes on the Prize, I follow Philip Michar a lot. I've watched all 4 of his games, and I've been thoroughly impressed. But Rehkopf has really shown for me he's a really, really good scorer. He takes up space extremely well. He mans the front of the net really well. He can play center. He can play wing. Very good player there. Moving on, you've got Hunter Brzustewicz. His name is very, very hard to pronounce, but I think I've got it right. A smart, agile defender, right-handed, 6 foot, 187 pounds. Again, plays for the Rangers and does a really good job of it. For me, this is a player who is going to give you the same thing every night. Breakouts, avoiding forecheckers, finding a passing lane. He's kind of a jack of all trades offensively. I don't see any sort of high-end, trademark skill that'll sort of make him shine above others, and that's why he's outside of the top 32. He was my 32nd pick in the October rankings, which are on my Twitter account, but so far I don't see enough from him in order to justify putting him any higher. Now, Ryan Leonard is another NTDP forward. He's a goal-scoring center with a really, really heavy release. He's a pure sniper, and those have their merits. But as a center, I do want to see a bit more from him before I rank him any higher. 5'11", 185 pounds, right-handed shot. There's some merit there, and that's why he's in the honorable mentions. But his trademark skill of goal scoring is in high supply in this year's draft. There's a lot of very good goal scorers, so I don't know. Jordan Tourigny of the Shawinigan Cataract in the QMJHL. This is a 5'9", 150-pound defender, but man, his execution speed, his mobility, his ability to draw in players and open up space behind them, it's high end, and I love it. The only thing is, obviously, 5'9", 150 pounds. His defense is iffy. His physicality is near non-existent. He has a lot of trouble getting under players and using his weight well. There are some flashes of it, which is kind of promising, and that's why I have him in my honorable mentions. But overall, there are some improvements needed, and he's very much a risk. Now, moving on, Theo Lindstein, a Swedish defender, left-handed defender. He is a pure offensive defenseman, very, very productive in his leagues right now. He plays in the SHL for Brynäs, plus skating. I mean, his skating is absolutely outstanding, and it drives a lot of his game, but his defensive game's kind of iffy. Now, Mathieu Cataford, who plays for the Halifax Mooseheads in the Q. He's stocky, he's opportunistic. I like that about him, but he's not the most dynamic, and that kind of leaves him outside of the top 32 for me right now. And another Slovak. This year's not really the year of the Slovaks like it was last year. There's 2 of them in the honorable mentions. I think that's about it. Alex Čiernik. He plays in the Allsvenskan. That's the second division of Swedish men's hockey. He's quick. He's really good off the rush, but I don't like his reads off the puck. He's kind of all over the place there, but he can play both wings. He's got okay size, 5'10", 179 pounds. Now, Gabe Perreault, I do want to note, by the way, the NTDP is pretty much the team I watch the most. They've got a lot of prospects that are pretty interesting. Gabe Perreault is an NTDP forward. Left winger, 5'10", 154 pounds. He's a good forechecker. He's a good playmaker. He's a good skater. But outside of that, I mean, I like his effort. I like the fact that he's able to connect plays really well. And I like the fact that he skates very, very well. But there's some IQ issues that I'm not too sure about that I really want to see him improve before I see any more of him and rank him higher. He was in my top 32, but with more viewings, I kind of see a lack of reads, a lack of scanning. Now, the last player in the honorable mentions, Gavin Brindley. He is a water bug, 5'9", 157 pounds, but does not play like it. He's quick and he is annoying. I love those players. Those players usually have the perseverance to push through the lack of pace and actually have a solid impact at the NHL level. I have very little doubt about Brindley's ability to have an impact at the next level. He's already playing in the NCAA for the University of Michigan and doing very, very well. He's born in October 04, so he's one of the oldest of this year's draft. Stats show that the older players in the draft actually usually outperform their draft rankings. So I wouldn't, count him out just because he's older and smaller. He's got a lot of skill. He almost made the cut, but at the last second, I decided that the prospects I am going to mention in just a second are just above him. Now, time for our top 32. Just before we get to it, though, a quick word from our sponsors. Do you like betting? BetOnline.net is your number one source for any wager that interests you. From the NFL to the NBA to the MLB, and even NCAA football, UFC, golf, anything you like, they have you covered. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game on their website or app. They're, of course, a great source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting, so you can keep up with bets as they unfold. They've got up to the minute scores for every sport out there. They're the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. All right, so moving on to our top 32, what you guys are waiting for. Today, I'm going to be showcasing the picks 32 through 17. This is going to allow us to look at the top 16, the top half of the draft, tomorrow on part 2 of this series. Again, I'm going to be presenting this series every first of the month. That's when it's going to start. You're going to have a breakdown of my top 32 with updates on who goes up, who goes down, who falls off the map, who comes out of nowhere, that kind of thing. So to start it off, pick number 32 from the Portland Winterhawks, right-handed defenseman, 5'10", 172 pounds, Luca Cagnoni. This is an outstanding skater. This is an excellent skater. His crossovers are perfect. He accesses his outside edges extremely well. And on top of that, he's got that dynamic passing ability. He can continue his motions through his passing. So he doesn't stop skating to make a pass, and he doesn't stop skating to receive a pass. That's a small detail that really, really compounds and makes a player much better. So yeah, dynamic passer and an outstanding skater. He's got those two things going for him. He's also pretty good defensively for a 5'10", 172-pound defender. I really, really like the way that he manages rushes against him, the way he keeps up with skaters and matches their footwork when they're coming at him so that he doesn't get left behind the player or get caught flat-footed. He intervenes at the right moments. He reads the play really well when he's defending the rush. So I really like Luca Cagnoni. Now, the 31st overall pick, this is going to be the only netminder in the first round. 6'6", 201 pounds from the Omaha Lancers in the USHL. You got Mikhail Gulyayev. Mikhail Gulyayev is a massive, calm, and technically and positionally sound netminder. He looks like a starter. You just watch him play, and he's just got the demeanor. He's got the understanding of what's going on ahead of him. He tracks the puck so well. And again, he's got the size, 6'6", 201 pounds. He hails from Czechia, which has produced some pretty good netminders. And he's definitely worth a take in that sort of range. For me, he's the best netminder of this class. And until I see someone else that really shows me that, he's got the level of play of Michael Hrabal, the amount of confidence that this goalie has. For me, this is a guy. So if your team's looking for a netminder, cough cough, Toronto Maple Leafs, I would go for Michael Hrabal. Moving on now. Pick number 30 from Skellefteå in the SHL. You have got Axel Sandin Pellikka. This is a right-handed defender, 5'11", 181 pounds. He's shifty. He's elusive. He's offensively gifted. This is an excellent defender you can get here. So the reason why he's not any higher is I do see some defensive lackings. And that's quite normal at this age, but it's why he's also in the first round, because you're more likely to develop an offensive defenseman to have a baseline defensively at the NHL level than you are to finding a defensive defenseman with near next to no offense and then just try and turn him into an offensive producer. The upside with Sandin Pellikka is definitely worth the risk, especially in the later first round. This is where I would absolutely take a swing on him, and he might even grow on me as the season goes on. If he shows some progression in the areas that I like to see, if he shows more sort of proactive decision making off the rush, if he shows more intelligence when playing in his own zone, that kind of thing, he might actually skyrocket up these rankings because his offensive upside is sky high. He's got a very high ceiling. So that's what I really like about signing Pellikka. Moving on to Will Whitelaw, the 29th pick of this draft from the Youngstown Phantoms in the USHL. This is a center with a lot of energy, with a lot of speed. He's evasive. He's got a quick release, which I really like about him. His off-puck positioning is outstanding for a 5'9", 172-pound forward. It's almost a necessity when you're that size to be good enough to weave in and out of pressure, find those little pockets of space to release your shot, circle around the net, find some space on the other side for a tap and that kind of thing. He is almost a master at finding space off the puck and making plays. So Whitelaw for me would be a great pickup in the late first round for a team that is good on size but is lacking some of that energy and skill. He would make a great middle six player. Now, Denver Barkey from the London Knights, the 28th pick in this draft. Another undersized but extremely hardworking player. He's dynamic, he's skillful, he's great off the puck, and his forechecking is probably among the best in this class. The way that he applies pressure, the angles he takes at defenders in order to, pressure their hands or try to make them, change directions in order to find an outlet, that kind of thing, is very, very promising. And he can play center. So that's what I really like about Barkey. Now, a player that has sort of very much grown on me. He was not even an honorable mention in October, and now he's my 27th overall pick, and that's Jayden Perron from the Chicago Steel in the USHL. 5'8", 157 pounds. You've got another undersized forward. I'm warning you, there are four of them in a row. You got Whitelaw, Barkey, Perron, and then the next guy. So at 27, absolutely worth the risk. You've got a versatile forward who's a stick-handling wizard, whose off-puck smarts in the offensive zone are extremely promising. He's very much similar to a player like Will Whitelaw, who can find space anywhere and take shots from anywhere. And the Chicago Steel are a development farm that is absolutely worth a team's time. Adam Nicholas, who now works for the Habs as their director of development, revolutionize their prospect development system. They went from a nothing team to one of the best pipelines in the world. And they've kept up that work. I don't think that's going anywhere. Nicholas has had a great influence on the team, so don't be surprised at all. Now, Luca Pinelli is our 26th overall pick. If the last name sounds similar, it's probably because you're a Kings fan. He is Francesco Pinelli's brother. He plays for the Ottawa 67s, 5'9", 161 pounds. He's a center. And just like Francesco Pinelli, he is incredibly smart, and he makes his teammates better with every puck touch. The way that he supports his teammates off the puck, the way that he offers himself as an outlet defensively and offensively, it just makes everyone seem smarter around him. but he's actually the one pulling the strings. And that's what I absolutely love about Pinelli is he's constantly pulling strings, and he's got a playmaking touch that is outstanding. He doesn't handle the puck, he cradles it like a baby. I absolutely love what he has to bring to the game, and this might not be a popular opinion, but to me, this is a first round pick. And he's probably going to go later than this in real life because, again, he's small, he's not the fastest, but intelligence is extremely difficult to teach. And when you have it, and you're worth a pick. That's how I see it. I'm a big smarts guy. Now we'll move on to picks 25 through 17 to end this episode. But just before we get into it, a quick word from our sponsors. All right, so for pick number 25, let's get right into it. The player I kind of ragged on last time, Cameron Allen from the Guelph Storm in the OHL. He's a right-handed defender, 5'11", 190 pounds. He's one of the most well-rounded defensemen in this class. He's got a lot of different assets, so many that I think he has a high enough floor that any team would consider him in the top 20. He's a good distributor, but the thing is, he's not really consistent with his production so far. There have been games that I've watched where his hockey sense, his understanding of play, his processing was really, really off, and he would make sort of outlandish decisions that kind of make you scratch your head. And for me, this reminds me a lot of Ty Nelson from last year's draft, and he dropped massively. He was a very skilled defender who could, when he was on his game, Ty Nelson was able to string together plays like very few could. And to me, Cam Allen sort of reminds me of that because he does have that streak where he's able to connect plays extremely well, make plays under pressure, that kind of thing. But then sometimes it would just fall apart for him. So for me, that's the sort of issue with Cam Allen and why he reminds me so much of a player like Ty Nelson, who struggled under pressure at times. The Kraken ended up picking him up in the third round, but for most of the year, he was considered a top 15 pick, almost surefire. But before you knew it, he was slipping out of rankings, and to me, I'm kind of afraid of Cam Allen becoming that guy because the last time I saw that level of inconsistency was from Ty Nelson, and it wasn't very, very conductive at the end of the day, and he ended up dropping. So I'm kind of cautious with Allen, but I understand why a team would take him higher than where I have him. At the end of the day, the draft is all about risk and reward. To me, Cam Allen doesn't offer that much reward, but he doesn't offer that much risk either. So it's all about what you're trying to do with him. Now, moving on from Allen, the 24th overall pick is Lukas Dragicevic from the Tri-City Americans in, you guessed it, the WHL. He's a stick-first defender. He doesn't really show a lot of physical upside. I don't see him as a very sort of physical defender, even though he's 6'2" and 181 pounds. But as a right-shot defenseman who, even though he's stick first, he's very good at the stick first. He's able to defend plays extremely well. He's smart, he's calm, and he's got offensive upside. So 24 is about where I would see him going. Now, the last player of the fifth tier of this top 32 is Nate Danielson. Nate Danielson plays for the Brandon Wheat Kings in, say it with me, the WHL. A two-way center with size and strength. He's got a decent shot. He's got great passing, but I do want to see him diversify his offense. Now, also the thing that's sort of, kind of promising to me with Danielson is he's got a lot of the foundations in a good prospect, but he's lacking the outer corners of it. So he's got a good shot, but he only uses a shot or two. He's got great playmaking, but he only tries a pass or two. I think diversifying offense is a lot easier than trying to add to the foundations of a player's game. So that's why Danielson is the top player of this fifth tier at 23rd overall, is because he already has the basics down. It's just about adding all the flash and flourish around that play. 6'1", 185 pounds, right-handed center, that helps as well. Now, for the what I call the blue tier, it's the tier number 4, it's the tier above the later first round. So picks 22 to about 12, I believe. Now, the 22nd overall pick to me is Matthew Wood who is already playing in the NCAA for the University of Connecticut. 6'3", 190-pound winger. He's big and strong, and he's got an amazing shot. Again, like I said, this draft, especially in the top end, is chock full of great shooters, great goal scorers. His skating needs a lot of work, but to me, this is a prospect who could pretty easily score 30 goals in the NHL. He's got the size, he's got the frame, he's got the smarts and the outstanding shot in order to potentially do that one day. Now, obviously, if you can work on his skating, make him a better skater, make him a better defensive reader, give him a baseline in terms of positioning and understanding of tactics, then great. But I like the player as he is, and that's why he's my 22nd pick. Moving on, Charlie Stramel, the 21st overall pick from the University of Wisconsin in the NCAA. So we got two NCAA prospects in a row. To me, Charlie Stramel is very similar to Matthew Wood, but he's a center, so that helps. That bumps him up. He's got more defensive acumen and a higher IQ. He can play center. He can play right wing. 6'3", 216 pounds. This is a prospect with a lot of weight, a lot of heaviness to his game that translates to his shot, but he's also got that finesse, understanding of play, the sort of processing of the play, even in his own zone, that kind of gives him more promise. So that's why he's one chalk above Matthew Wood, even though I think Wood has a better shot. I still like what Stramel has to bring to the game, so that's why he's in that range. Now, for pick number 20, we're getting in the top 20 now. A player who plays for Avangard Omsk in the KHL, that is Mikhail Gulyayev. 5'10", 170 pounds, a left-handed defenseman from Russia. This is a dynamic puck-moving defenseman, and those have value when they're able to skate, and especially when, despite their size, they're able to defend. And that is Gulyayev to a T. He's an outstanding defender with a great understanding of his surroundings. He understands spacing well on defense, especially on rushes, and he can play physically for his size, which is very, very promising. So that's what I like about Gulyayev. He is the last player in the top 20 because there's still some concerns about his IQ at high paces. He can skate very quickly, but I don't think he makes decisions at a quick enough level to rival with the top 10, for example. Now, moving on, we've got another WHL player from the Prince George Cougars, Koehn Ziemmer. Koehn Ziemmer is another outstanding shooter. He's got quick processing. His mobility is kind of iffy, and doesn't help that he's very stocky already at 6 foot and 194 pounds. But as a right winger who can absolutely rifle the puck and can process a game at a high level and finds space off the puck extremely well, this is a player with a very high ceiling, and I am all for those. Again, this is a player who's grown on me a lot in the past month and could continue to grow on me. So who knows? Maybe he makes his way into the top 15. But so far, he's my 19th pick. Now, there are two players left before we round it out for today. It's already a pretty long episode. Let's try to shorten that up. From the Sudbury Wolves, the 18th overall pick is Quentin Musty, 6'2", 205 pounds. This is a supremely skillful player. This is a player with every single skill in the book. His tool bag is full to the brim, but his awareness, not very good. He can make iffy decisions. He can miss obvious pass options. He can forget to check his shoulder and miss a man as he's back checking or that kind of thing. And when you've got that many skills but not the brain to go with it, it's a concern. But the skill is so high end that he far outweighs the risks with him. For me, the risk reward, I mean, if he pans out, he could be an elite player. So that's my rationale for Quentin Musty and why he's my 18th pick. But I understand the risk and the concern, and he might even slip into the late first round or hell, even the second round. But for me, he's worth the risk. Now, the last player of today, before we close it off for today and talk to you tomorrow for the top 16, the top half of the draft, from the Sherbrooke Phoenix of the QMJHL, we've got Ethan Gauthier. Now, his father, Daniil Gauthier, played a long career in the NHL. He was very different, though. Daniil Gauthier was a bruising defender. Ethan Gauthier is kind of shorter, 5'11", 176 pounds. He's a right winger. what I really, really love about Gauthier is the whole overall package. So he's hardworking and he's creative. He's one of the most relentless players I've seen in the queue, but he's also got that high creativity to, make behind the back passes or find trailers through seams. He's also a decent skater. Now, it's pretty similar to Nate Danielson, where he needs to diversify his offense. He sticks to his guns, but again, that's easy. That's an easy thing to coach and cover out. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Ethan Gauthier's combined skills and the way that he combines them together, the way that he strings together plays, he uses his relentlessness to win a puck, then he uses his creativity to find a lane that no one would have thought of for a pass, and he makes his way to the net with his high-end positioning. Everything strings together very well for him, and that's why I've got him higher than players who maybe have more skill or more creativity, or it's just the overall package with him that just seems a lot more projectable. So that pretty much sums it up for today. I will see you tomorrow as we discuss the top 16, the best players in the upcoming draft. Make sure to tune in tomorrow as your first listen of the day. And again, remember to like and subscribe. You can leave me a comment. Just let me know who your favorite prospect that I've mentioned today is. If you've watched any of them, if you're from one of their markets and you know the player pretty well, you agree, you disagree, make sure to let me know. I'm always more than welcome to discuss prospects with anyone and everyone who wants to. So we'll see you tomorrow.